My name is Hannah. I'm 30 years old and I'm both the chef and the owner of a high-end steakhouse. Both of my parents were steak chefs and I grew up watching them serve amazing steaks that made their customers incredibly happy. Inspired by my parents, I decided to follow in their culinary footsteps. After years of hard work, I finally achieved my dream of becoming a steakhouse chef. And even better, 3 years ago, I opened my own high-end steakhouse. And not to brag, but our steakhouse is top-notch. Not just in terms of the steaks and wine, but the ambience as well. The skills my parents ingrained in me, like how to cut and cook the meat, have made the restaurant extremely popular. We're usually packed with a long line of people waiting to get in. It feels so rewarding to see everyone eating so happily. The smiles on the faces of our satisfied customers, seen from the kitchen and across the counter, energize me through my busy days as the chef and the owner of this popular steakhouse. But lately, something has been troubling me so much that even those smiles can't lift my spirits. One day, while I was hurriedly cooking steaks in our bustling restaurant, boss, Kimberly, my friend since culinary school who also works here, hesitantly called out to me. I looked where Kimberly was pointing and saw a woman in her late 60s along with a man and a woman in her late 30s, all chomping down on their steaks while rattling off pretentious food commentary. Ugh, those jerks are making a mess while acting like know-it-alls again. Matthew, another friend from culinary school who was cooking steaks next to me and also Kimberly's brother, clenched his teeth in anger. That's right. They aren't first-timers at this restaurant. They have been here more than once or twice. They were my husband Kevin's mother Amanda and his brother and sister. If they were just making a mess while spouting off food trivia, that would be one thing, but I'm stumped. Let's go. Right after finishing their meals, my mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law brazenly tried to leave without even paying.
Hey, wait a minute, where do you think you're going?
Matthew dashed out of the kitchen to catch up with my in-laws. What? We're just leaving because we finished eating.
Did you all leave last time without paying too?
We have told you before, haven't we? This place belongs to our son's wife, so we eat for free all we want. Hearing the shameless statement from my mother-in-law, the atmosphere amongst the other customers started to change. I sighed internally. Not this again. The heated exchange between Matthew and mother-in-law continued.
Do you really think you can get away with this? We have other paying customers too. Don't confuse them. Pay your bill this time, please.
Are you kidding? This is my son's wife's restaurant. We can do whatever we want.
Don't act so entitled in our restaurant.
The argument escalated into a shouting match. Matthew, myself, Kimberly, and even some customers tried to intervene. In the end, mother-in-law left in a huff without paying, taking her son and daughter-in-law with her. Right, this is the issue that's been driving me up the wall lately. My mother-in-law thinks it's okay to bring her family and friends to my restaurant just because I'm married to her son. They eat all they want and then leave without paying the bill. Can you believe that this time, they even did a dine and dash right in front of other customers? What's worse, since the day of this incident, customer traffic has started to decline a bit. At this rate, the restaurant I have worked so hard to build is in jeopardy. After 2 months of racking my brain about what to do, I got a call from my mother-in-law. Hello? Hannah, reserve a table for 20 people tonight. What? Caught off guard, my head went blank. My relatives are visiting from the countryside. You'll be free, right? Reserve the entire place. Wait a minute, I can't just... Before I could finish my sentence, my mother-in-law hung up the phone with a dismissive laugh. As if it wasn't bad enough that they have repeatedly dined and dashed on us, now they have caused a scene and worsened our already shaky business. But I can't ignore a reservation no matter how it comes in. So I briefed Matthew, Kimberly, and the rest of the staff on the situation. We prepared for the reservation and I even contacted a certain individual. And that night, mother-in-law nonchalantly showed up at the restaurant bringing along not just brother-in-law and sister-in-law but also a group of 17 other people who appeared to be relatives. As we served them the prepared feast, including steak, we kept a watchful eye on mother-in-law. Then one of the relatives asked her nervously, "Is it okay to eat at such an upscale place?" "Of course, darling. Why worry? We're family, so it's all you can eat, right?" Mother-in-law called out to me in the kitchen without a hint of shame. "Wait a minute, that's not quite..." "See? Just eat up and don't worry about it. If I was gonna pay for food, I would go to a place with a real chef." Ignoring my concerns, my mother-in-law cheerfully encouraged the uneasy relatives and kept digging into the steaks with them. I knew it. My uneasy feeling had just turned into a solid concern. Up until now, I have been hosting them out of respect for being my husband's family, but causing a scene, offering no apology and then casually saying they would go somewhere else if they had to pay for 20 people? Unbelievable. An hour later, just as I expected, my mother-in-law, now full, said, "I'm stuffed. Let's head back. I'll guide you to the hotel." And she tried to leave the restaurant without paying, chuckling with my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and other relatives. I couldn't let this slide. Matthew, Kimberly, and I blocked their path.
"Wait a minute. If you're leaving after eating, you need to settle the bill,"
I said firmly, glaring at her. She brushed it off with a smile. "What are you talking about? Oh, we're family."
"And your point is? You think that's some magic phrase? Normally you pay for what you eat no matter where you are."
"Well, normally, yes. But think about it. When we come to your house and you feed us, we don't pay, right?" She kept talking back. Holding back my anger, I continued, "That's true. But where do you think you are now? This isn't a friend or family's home. It's a legitimate restaurant." "So what? Whether it's a shop or not, it doesn't change the fact that it's my daughter-in-law's place. Charging money just because the location is different makes no sense." Even as the relatives tried to intervene, seeing her completely condescending expression, she showed no signs of changing her attitude. As everyone, Matthew, Kimberly, and even the other staff members grew angry, I decided it was time to reveal a truth I had been hiding. "Amanda, clearly you're not listening. Do you know that right now I'm single?" At this, mother-in-law's laughter stopped and her face formed 3 circles, one with her eyes and one with her mouth. Brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and the relatives did the same. However, a few seconds later, mother-in-law burst out laughing again. "What are you even talking about? There is no way Kevin would divorce me without telling me." "It's no lie. We are really divorcing, which means you and I are no longer part of the family." "Huh? Then why didn't Kevin say anything until now?" Exactly. Kevin, my now ex-husband, hadn't informed mother-in-law of this fact. During dinner earlier, mother-in-law had been complaining about not receiving any messages from her son. Well, Kevin didn't want to contact you because you two don't get along. He even told me not to say anything when we were divorcing. He said he would tell you when the time is right. What? At this, both brother-in-law and sister-in-law along with the relatives were visibly disturbed. That is when Matthew seized the opportunity to speak up.
That said, your bill comes to $3,000 for all 20 of you."
At the mention of $3,000, mother-in-law and the relatives were stunned, a wave of shock spreading among them. "What? There's no way we can pay that on the spot. Why is it $3,000 for a steak dinner that we could have had at home?"
The nerve. If anyone should stop, it's you. Plus, our steaks are not the kind you eat at home. We source the meat every morning and maintain it at the right temperature.
$3,000 for that? The mother-in-law tried to laugh it off with a malicious smile, but the relatives gave her awkward glances in return. Increasingly exasperated with My ex-mother-in-law Matthew, followed by Kimberly, finally speaks up.
As the manager said, we are a steakhouse. We don't offer all-you-can-eat or drink specials. Plus, our prices per item aren't cheap.
Right. If you're going to stuff your face like that, it's obvious the bill would come to $3,000. Hearing both of them, the relatives turned on mother-in-law with a unified aggressive stance. What's going on here? You said something different earlier. You told us you settled things with the manager, so we didn't need to bring any money. I only brought enough for transportation to the hotel, one mumbled among other complaints. Faced with their collective ire, mother-in-law panicked. Then she inexplicably grew angry at my anger. How dare you shame me in front of all these relatives? Should I sue you for defamation? Be my guest, but before that, we will report you for dying and dashing, and we will also discuss your prior offenses as fraudulent consumer behavior. What did you just say? Confused and increasingly confrontational in response to my anger, my mother-in-law is hastily stopped by relatives, but she breaks away from them and becomes even more aggressive towards me. What have you done to our precious eldest son, Kevin? There must be a major reason for him wanting a divorce. Why are you assuming I am at fault? Kevin is perfect. He's good at his job and handles household chores. I can't forgive this. You're paying the bill as alimony. This ludicrous claim left not just me but also the restaurant staff dumbfounded.
What nonsense is this middle-aged woman spouting?
She probably doesn't want to admit she's wrong, so embarrassing considering she's older than us. Matthew and Kimberly chimed in. I sensed something about mother-in-law's futile resistance. I see. So those are your motives? Well, I couldn't have possibly contacted you after what you did. What are you talking about? I didn't say anything because I was gagged, but the reason for the divorce is Kevin's infidelity and abusive behavior. My words struck mother-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and the other relatives like a bolt of lightning. So I laid out the truth about the divorce. You see, Kevin, no, my ex-husband, didn't just neglect his job. He stole money from me. Money I had saved before our marriage, while he partied with multiple women and drank heavily. On top of that, he was emotionally abusive toward me. In the end, he started accumulating debt without my knowledge. So divorce was the only option. Wait, debt? How much are we talking about? Adding up everything, including loans from friends and my own parents, we're looking at around $40,000. At this, mother-in-law's face turned white as a sheet. I initially gave you all a pass on the dine and dash habit thinking it was a one-time thing. But after the fiasco 2 months ago, I can't let it slide anymore. Plus, we have booked the entire restaurant today. So, if you don't pay, we are in the red. As I said this, the relatives grew furious in unison. Some even started demanding that mother-in-law repaid them the money they had lent her over the years. Mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law were visibly shocked and confused when suddenly the restaurant door burst open and a man stepped in. Owen? Mother-in-law exclaimed, recognizing the man. It was Owen, father-in-law, a physical education lecturer at a university in the city. He surveyed the scene, sighed deeply, and then bowed his head to me.
Hannah, it's been a while. I'm really sorry for the mess my foolish wife has caused.
No, Owen, I should apologize for calling you in the midst of your busy day. That's right. Actually, it was me who reached out to my father-in-law. Upon hearing about mother-in-law's troubling actions, including the full reservation of this restaurant, he promised to come and have a word with her as soon as he could. What are you doing here? Mother-in-law shrieked.
Amanda, show some respect. Even if she's an ex, she's someone who's had to put up with our idiotic son.
But you said you would be late because of work.
Yes, but Hannah called me earlier. I was teaching at the university, so I couldn't leave immediately.
He sighed again. I'm really sorry for having to drag you into this.
There is no need for you to apologize, Hannah. I heard everything while standing at the entrance. I know the situation.
With that, father-in-law glared at mother-in-law.
Hey, Amanda, what's the deal? You have been dying and dashing repeatedly and you almost caused a scene last time?
No. You've got it wrong. I only have $60 on me right now.
What? Are you kidding me, Amanda? You come to a high-end restaurant and that's all you bring? You can't even pay for a single meal?
Father-in-law's anger exploded and mother-in-law trembled visibly. After letting out a big sigh to contain his anger, father-in-law continued.
As I said earlier, I heard what happened at the entrance. Not just Kevin, but you too, Amanda. You have been acting so recklessly and shamelessly.
No. It's not like that. The real problem here is Hannah. She knew about the divorce and didn't say a word.
Enough excuses. Kevin is the one who silenced her, and he is the root cause of all this mess.
Father-in-law's booming voice made not only mother-in-law but also the relatives and the wait staff, including Matthew and Kimberly, gasp and tremble. Noticing this, father-in-law cleared his throat and deeply bowed to us.
I apologize for the scene and for my foolish wife. I'll cover the bill and the debts my relatives have mentioned. Please forgive us.
You're doing what?
Mother-in-law was shocked, but father-in-law continued to me.
And regarding the alimony for Kevin's divorce, I would like to discuss it later. I also bear responsibility for my son's actions, so...
No need. Kevin's existing debts are already taken as alimony, so please don't worry.
Really? Both my son and I owe everyone an apology.
Father-in-law bowed deeply again and turned to mother-in-law.
I'm so sorry.
Don't get me wrong, I said I would cover the costs for now, and you will pay it back later with your own earnings.
At this point, brother-in-law and sister-in-law who were pointed out by father-in-law were utterly shocked. Father-in-law declared that if they had been dine and dashing along with mother-in-law, they were equally guilty. He cut off all ties with mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law on that very day. Later, father-in-law covered the $3,000 for today's meal, the $14,000 for past dine and dashing, and around $10,000 for mother-in-law's debts to relatives, a total of $27,000. Apparently, part of mother-in-law's debts was due to dine and dashing at my restaurant, but it was later revealed that she had also been financially supporting a younger man. Upon discovering this, father-in-law was furious beyond words, and the situation with mother-in-law became so irreparable that they divorced. Additionally, he cut ties with brother-in-law and sister-in-law as well. And so, the ousted trio, mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law, moved into a cheap apartment in the city. They're juggling part-time jobs to pay off their debts and working from dawn till dusk. Mind you, all of them are struggling. Mother-in-law, who has always been a housewife, along with brother-in-law and sister-in-law who relied solely on father-in-law's income despite having college degrees, are all finding it hard to adapt to their first jobs. They're getting yelled at by younger bosses and colleagues almost every day. On the flip side, things are looking up for me, including this recent episode. Relatives and friends who used to come with mother-in-law are now visiting on their own, and guess what? They're actually paying for their meals. They're genuinely thrilled with the high quality of the food and service. So as much as I thank mother-in-law for this one silver lining, the smiles of these satisfied customers keep me, Matthew, Kimberly, and the rest of the staff going strong.